Inside Out, it's called. So what y'all think? What do you think about the video? Anybody else? Pretty accurate, no? Okay. Have you ever told yourself this statement? I just can't get it together. Yes? Okay. Can you turn the light on a little bit? I feel like it's so dark in here. Just a little bit. Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. Here's our gut check for today. What will it take for you to surrender? And for those on Zoom, you guys don't have to answer that. That's a rhetorical question that I want you guys to kind of think about as we go through the class. What will it take for you to surrender? Okay. Focal verse. We're on Mark chapter 5, verse 7. Anybody want to read it? If not, it's on the screen. The whole thing.
Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again, send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs were feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 numbers, rushed down the steep bank into the lake, and we were drowned.
Anybody see this as familiar? We spoke last week about it. Can anybody tell me what we spoke about last week? What about him? What was the class about? In the cemetery? What else? His point of view? What else? Living among dead things. We spoke about the man that was possessed, who struggled, who cried out. He wanted to be set free. An excerpt from last week was, you ever notice when you pray and you cry out to God, things seem to get worse? We all agreed, right? Sometimes the storm doesn't mean, and this is exactly word for word what I spoke last week. Sometimes the storm doesn't mean that we're running from God like Jonah. Sometimes it means we're headed straight for him. Sometimes the storm is to keep us from seeing him on his way across the water for us. Sometimes it's to take our eyes off grace, ready to stop everything to come out and see about us. So you're probably wondering why, if we spoke about it last week, are we speaking again about it? But last week, we really didn't get into 10, 11, 12, and 13. We really just got to when he said, "What is your name?" And Legion said, "My name is Legion." He replied, "For we are many," and we left it there. We really didn't go further. Today, I want to talk about the demons. You're like, "Wow, this is a Bible study talking about demons." But I'm setting the foundation for where we're going to go. All right. So it's 10 says, and he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and impure spirits came and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Question, who is he? Who is he? Unclean spirit, right? He is Legion. So Jesus is no longer, I can't see you, Court. Jesus is no longer having a conversation with the gentleman who was disturbed, okay? He's now having a conversation with the demon, directly with the demon. Before that, what had happened? He ran, and what happened? What happened? Before he says, "What's your name?" What happened before that? He ran to him, he cried out, right? And then what happens? He bowed down, and then Jesus is about to cast out the demon. Legion, now Jesus is he's not having a conversation with the man anymore. He's having a conversation directly with the demon. So the question is, why would demons beg to not to be cast out? Yes. But remember, it's Jesus. He doesn't need dominion over them. He already has it. Okay? But why would demons beg to be cast out? Yes. They need a warm body. Luke 8:31 tells us the demons also begged him that he would not command them to go out into the abyss. They did not want to become inactive. Lo, it is another hell to the devil to be idle, otherwise than evil occupied. Satan would rather vex swine than do no mischief at all. He is so fond of evil that he would work it upon animals if he cannot work it upon man. That's why, okay? And I'm listening. We're going to get, and I'm glad you asked that question, because that is the very premise of this class. Very premise of this class, okay? Mark 5:7. The demons demonstrated that they knew who Jesus was, because they said, "Jesus, Son of the Most High." Here they demonstrate that they can pray to Jesus, begged him earnestly. This shows that you can know who Jesus is and not surrender to him. You can pray to him and still not surrender to him. That's scary, because You're basically doing the same thing demons could do. You ain't special. You're not going, without surrender, there is no relationship. You're just talking. You're just talking, okay? Like Mimi said, demons need a host. They are spirits. They cannot operate without a body. The demons wanted to enter the swine because demons are bent on destruction and they hate to be idle, okay? The devil is so fond of doing mischief that he would rather play a small game than stand out. And you're probably like, why are we talking so much about demons? Again, premise for the class. And it says, and at once Jesus gave them permission. Instead of putting these unclean spirits completely out of his commission, Jesus allowed this because the time of total demonstration of his authority over demons had not yet come. Remember, Jesus had not resurrected yet, okay? It would come at the cross. When Jesus resurrects, when Jesus dies and resurrects, he takes the keys. He takes dominion, complete dominion, okay? Colossians 2:15 tells us that at the cross, Jesus disarms demons in their attacks on believers. He made a public spectacle of their defeat and he triumphed over them in his work on the cross. But why did Jesus allow the demons to go into the pigs? Go ahead. Good. Anybody else? Yes. But he didn't send them to a dry place.
Right.
Why? That's the question. Why? You're right. He does send them to dry places, and that's why when there's deliverance, we always have to be in communion and mindful because they're always looking for somewhere to host. Exactly. Okay, go ahead. That's a good reason also. Go ahead, Jules. Why? Good. It could be. They did. She said the unclean spirits didn't want to go back to where they came from. Yes. Culturally, pigs are unclean. So listen to this. The reason why Jesus allowed the demons to enter the pigs was because, like Xavier said, he wanted everyone to know the real intention of what the demons were. They wanted to destroy the man just as they destroyed the pigs. Immediately, as soon as they got into the pigs commit suicide. Because men are made in the image of God, they could not have their way as easily with the man. But their intention was just the same, to completely destroy him. You see how quick they were able to get rid of the animal? That's what the enemy wants to do with us. Why can't he do it as quick? Why can't he destroy Jasmine as quick as he destroyed the pigs? She makes decisions, okay? Also, so why would you allow, like, now if you're thinking, like, logically, like, that's a lot of money that went down the drain. But what do we know about pigs? They're dirty. And what do we know about the Bible? They weren't supposed to have pigs to begin with because swine is unclean. And if you're a Jew, you're not even supposed to touch that swine. But yet you have a pig farm? It doesn't specifically say they were owned by Jews, but in that, I think even in that culture, because even over there, what happened here? Hold on, guys, I want to get back on this because I want y'all to see. Okay, so it says, but the owners of the swine lost their property, yes, and learned from this how small value temporal riches are in the estimation of God. He suffers them to be lost, sometimes to disengage us from them through mercy, sometimes out of justice, to punish us for having acquired or preserved either through covetousness or injustice. They weren't supposed to have the swine. We don't know if they were Jew, but either way. Okay, so now, the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned into the sea. The destructive nature of demonic spirits was shown by their effect on the swine. They are like their leader, Satan, whose desire is to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Okay? What is the main objective of the enemy? To kill, steal, and destroy. Everything he touches brings death. I'm going to say that again. Everything the enemy touches or has to do with brings death. Have you ever heard this quote? But the devil brings blessings too. Do we agree? Absolutely. Yes, he does. He's a copycat, so he may send something that looks like a blessing, a gift, something good. And you may feel like you're on top of the world because he's giving you everything your heart desires. However, keep this verse in mind. He came to kill, to steal, and to destroy. That means that eventually every blessing you've received from him turns into death. You hear so many testimonies of people who actually worship the devil. They got everything they dreamed of, but all that comes with a price. And eventually he comes back around to charge you because everything he touches ends in death. Now, if you go on De La Fe testimonies, there's a lot of people that were in witchcraft, and they would say how, everything they ever desired, the enemy gave them. They wanted riches, they got the riches. They wanted healing for their family, they got the healing. They wanted a relationship, they got the relationship. But at the end, the devil, at the end of all that, always required them payback. He always wanted something back. And majority of the time, it was in blood. So somebody would have to die, okay? Now, y'all remember the movie, The Little Mermaid? Ariel, all she wanted was to be human. She wanted to dance. It keeps dying. Yep. And what did Ursula do? Ursula gave her exactly what she wanted, but it came with a price and she lost her voice. I wonder how many of us have dibbled and dabbled with witchcraft because we found ourselves in a situation that we couldn't get it together, whether it was romantically or financially or even health-wise. Instead of seeking Jesus, we sought out good energy. We sought out white magic. We sought out new age. We started messing with crystals. And again, it was all good for a while, but now things seem to have gotten worse. Why? Because the enemy cannot provide everlasting peace. That means that eventually every blessing you've received from him turns into death and turns into a curse. And again, it was all good for a while, but now things seem to have gotten worse. Why? Because the enemy cannot provide everlasting peace. God is the only one that can do that. The enemy is a copycat. He can only imitate, and that doesn't last long, not long. What do we know about imitations? Fake. I ever tell you the story about how my mom bought that light off of Temu?
Yeah, and it dropped or something?
No, the light works, but then it turns into a strobe light. She was like, you see, why am I going to go and pay? I'm going to get in Home Depot, pay $100 when I can get it for $20 in Temu. And now all the lights upstairs in my house on the second floor, all Temu. So occasionally at night, all the lights start flickering. And if you're new, you're probably like, what the hell's happening in this house? But it's just the lights, huh? No, that one's just done. Okay, but again, what do we know about, oh my gosh, this is getting annoying. What do we know about fakes? If you buy a Louis Vuitton bag and you buy it in Chinatown, you're good. You can fake everybody for a little bit, but eventually the bag breaks because it's not real leather, right? But when you have the actual bag, those things last. My sister got one. Those things last. She's had it for a long time. And that thing has taken a beating, and it still looks new because it's the real deal. So we're back to square one. We look like anxiety in Inside Out. We look just like what anxiety looked like. Frazzled. We thought we were in a mess before. Now we're in a worse mess because we thought we were fixing it, and every time we try to fix it, we make it worse. Or we'll feel peace for a little bit because people have told me, like if they're messing with the new age and the crystals and all this and that, or with drugs, all that, when people are partying and everything, yes, that does feel good for a moment. But you notice it all comes to an end. With the drugs, you got to do more drugs. With the crystals, you got to buy crystals. You got to buy more books. Somebody was telling me, they're like, I don't know how many books I had to buy because it was like a new update was coming up. You had to keep buying more crystals, more. You have to do more meditations. You have to do more and more because, again, everlasting peace only comes from Christ. It only comes from Christ. We can try to fill it. It does work for a little bit, but at the end of the day, we're back to square one. So why is the struggle so hard? Why can't I just get it together? Because this isn't about you. It's about the generations after you. It's about those around you. It's about your family. It's about your legacy. It's about your mission. It's not just about you. That's why you can't get it together. Because in the spirit world, there's a much greater war happening than most of us are even aware of. And we know this. Ephesians 6:12 says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. The same devil who opposed Jesus in the wilderness is entirely opposed, is the enemy of all who are in Christ. This enemy is not an inanimate force. What Paul is talking about here is a personal being who does not act alone. A lot of times we're trying to fight a spiritual fight on your own. This is why you cannot, nor will you ever be able to get it together. Not without Jesus anyway. When you're trying to get it together in your own strength, that's exhausting. That's why we got so many people on pills. That's why we got so many people trying to find a fulfillment, because you're trying to put yourself together in your own strength. And the reality is we will never be able to. We can't give ourselves peace. We try to cross all the boxes, and most of us are not rich. So we think if we have the money, we live under this facade that, well, if I have the money, and since the enemy knows you'll never most likely be a billionaire, then you're always going to live under that lie that if I have the money, I'll be better. But the truth is that money does not satisfy, because if it did, us poor people that had money wouldn't blow through it the way we do. It doesn't last very long because money doesn't satisfy. A lot of times we think, I can't get it together. And the truth is, like we read here that it's almost like that story. I believe it was Daniel that he put the petition for, what was it, Daniel, right? The 21 days. He put the petition that the matter was answered. The angel was about to answer the prayer through God. He was unable to because of the amount of warfare that there was. And I think a lot of times, we're thinking, I can't get it together. I'm trying to get it together. But how do I say this? A lot of times we open doors and we're not fighting against our own weaknesses. We're dealing against legions. Sometimes it's doors that we have opened. Sometimes it's relationships that we've gotten into. Sometimes it's places that we've gone, that we open doors, and now it's not just you fighting against yourself. It's not just a regular fight. It's a spiritual warfare that is happening in your life, and you're trying so hard and you can't do it, and you end up on burnout. And I'm not talking about the day-to-day anxiety. I'm talking about the type of anxiety that you don't want to leave your room. I'm talking about the type of depression that you're okay in a mess, that you're okay with having clutter and dirt everywhere. It doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother you to go into places of darkness. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. Being in the light bothers you, but you're more comfortable in toxicity. You're more comfortable in negativity. If that is what you're struggling with, then we really got to look at, this is bigger than what you think it is. This is deeper than what you think it is. It's not just, I'm struggling. No, you're under a demonic influence that wants to bring you down. And the thing is, if we're not watching, and remember, I said influence. I didn't say you're possessed. I said influence. If we're not watching, we can fall into places that we don't need to be. And then we think, I don't know how I got this far, because we're not paying attention. The Bible says renew your minds every single day. The Bible says the one where I will meditate on this book day and night. There was a reason for that. Because let's think about all the outside influence besides us dealing with ourselves. Let's think about the influences that are around us at all times. That's what we're dealing with. Sometimes we think, oh no, it's just, I'm just a little depressed. No, it's not just you're a little depressed. Oh, I just have a little anxiety. Yes, medically, there are people that suffer from anxiety. But I'm talking about the type of anxiety where you're like anxiety in the movie. If you guys notice the flyer that I used, it's a girl and you see her face. She's got a straight face, but there's a bunch of wirings all over. Have you ever felt like that? That's what your brain looks like. Literally, that's what your brain looks like. You can't focus because there's so much going on in your brain. Yeah, there's so much going on in your brain. And when and this is why, if there's so much if you're not at peace in your mind, you're okay with living in darkness. You're okay. Yeah, project. Yeah. Or sometimes you'll project whatever's going on in your brain. And you're not able, and you don't even realize, or I don't even realize that I'm doing it. Again, I can't get it together. And that's exactly right. You can't get it together. I can't get it together. We will never be able to get it together. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter if you have the best relationship, the best marriage, the best kids. If you're not at peace in your brain, you're not going to be at peace anywhere. And the only one that can give us that peace that surpasses all understanding, that peace that it doesn't matter if all hell is breaking loose, you're still able to wake up and smile. It's only Jesus. It's only Jesus. It's a spiritual fight. But wait a minute, Lou, let's pause for a second. I see other people doing worse things than me, and they're chilling. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they are. Sometimes they're faking the funk, but sometimes they genuinely are. But here's the thing. You're not them. You're set apart. But that's why I said sometimes they are chilling. Sometimes some people can do certain things. I'll give you an example. They can steal, keep it moving. Don't do nothing to them. I take a chapstick and I'm frazzled. The mom came home with a bag from her job. She was like, oh man, I accidentally took this from work. And I was like, what do you mean? What, you gotta go back? She goes, Ma, it was my work pouch. It's okay. The girl already, no, I said, no, that's stealing. And she goes, Mom, it's not stealing. I accidentally took it. I said, no, you gotta call the boss right now. I can't get away with a freaking chapstick. And there's people stealing millions upon millions, no remorse, nothing. Not fair. You know, like sometimes I'm like, why you don't let me do nothing? Other people could do it, keep it moving. Doesn't matter. But when you're set apart, you're not going to be able to get away with certain things. God has a purpose and a calling over your life. And when you're set apart, the struggle is different. You know it. I know it. You know from childhood, you've always been different. You know from childhood, you just didn't fit in where you were at. And you were like, heck, man, like, why can't I just chill? Everybody else is chilling. And I'm not talking about people just raised in the church. You've known since birth you're different. And you're always wondering why. And now you come to know Christ and you're like, wait a minute. Wait, you called me from back then? Yes, since back then. I know somebody that used to profess he was going to be a pastor, running around telling people he was a pastor. Ain't no pastors in his family. But he told everybody, I'm going to be a pastor. And the family still tells me till today. That's what he said. I mean, he ain't a pastor yet, but that's what he always said. But if that's what was in his heart, then I believe that that's what God placed in his heart. Because kids don't just come up with that stuff. God puts it in your heart. So we return to the gut check, and it sucks that this isn't working, but here's the question, because when I was thinking about the gut check, I said, what do you do for a gut check when the classes, I can't get it together? And the Lord told me to share this. What will it take for you to surrender? When will you stop running? Because you've always known you're not like them. You've never been like them. God has been speaking to you as a child. You choose to ignore it. You do your own thing, which is fine because that's free will. But at what point in your life do you actually surrender and say, I can't do this and I don't want to. I can't and I don't want to. So if it's a spiritual fight, right? And I always think back to Courtney with the being practical. If it's a spiritual fight, you told us this. If you're telling me that, okay, I'm called and I'm special, then how do I fight? Because I've been trying to fight in my own strength and that's not working out because you see all the grades I got. So how do you fight a spiritual fight? How do we do it? Call on Jesus. What else? Pray. What else? Get into the word. Fasting. Recognize the spiritual realm. Understand there's a spiritual realm with forces at play that can influence your life. Know that this realm is not physical. Therefore, it requires a spiritual response. Can't give a physical response to a spiritual situation. Go. It is. But you can't be delivered from something you're not aware of.
You don't want to give it up.
No, I'm talking about that's what I'm saying. You have to surrender. You have to surrender. Some people need healing and they don't even know they need healing. You have issues from your past you don't even remember because God is that merciful. You're like, I don't remember. I don't even remember that happened because God is merciful. Because if we were really to remember everything, most of us would probably go crazy, right? So you can't heal from what you don't surrender, from what you don't acknowledge. You don't tell the Lord, I know I got issues. Some of them I don't even know what they are, but I bring them to you. And then at that point, when you surrender and you're actually willing to get delivered, right? But it's not just deliverance because deliverance is it's somebody praying for you. That's one time. But then how do you continue? You have to do the work. You can't run to Anna every time. You can't run to the pastor every time. Oh, I need to be delivered. No, at what point do you take accountability and say, I need to stop opening doors so I don't need to continue to be delivered? Yeah, I was delivered from pornography, let's say. You know, they prayed for me. I did the whole shaking. I felt bad. But then the next day I went right back to pornography. At what point do you say, no, I am not going to do this. I'm going to put my effort. Lord, embolden me, give me the strength so that my deliverance can be maintained. Okay. Yes. You're choosing to do it. Right. You know, and that's why I believe that we need to renew our minds every day. Because again, we always go back to default. It's just the way it is. Like, we can be delivered, and if we're not continuously praying, you're going to go right back to who you've always been. Even if it's, I heard this story about this lady, told my mom about it. She owned a daycare. Her husband was molesting the kids. So, I mean, that's sick. But he was a cop, which made it even worse. He was like a chief or a sergeant, whatever. But the thing was, she had stopped drinking 20 years prior. The day she found out her husband was doing that, she went and bought a bottle of Hennessy. She went to the hotel where he was staying because they were staying at a hotel at the time. She shot him twice. She didn't kill him, but she shot him twice. She ended up doing 4 years in prison. Again, she took justice into her own hands. The judge didn't look at it that way. He's doing life in prison. He didn't die. He's doing life in prison. But the point is, my point in saying that is that something happened and she reverted back to something she hadn't done in 20 years. 20 years. And life happened and boom. And she blames it on the alcohol. She's like, I don't even know what I was thinking. They were like, do you remember the conversation? She's like, I don't. All I remember is me going to the liquor store, buying Hennessy. She's like, I don't even drink Hennessy. That wasn't her drink, her preferred drink. She bought the Hennessy and who took control in that moment? Give you a DMX vibe. But here's the thing, who took control in that moment? The alcohol, the demon of alcohol took full control. That's why they call it wine and spirits. Because I'm chilling, I'm good. Yeah, so who do you think is in control when you're numb? Who do you think is in control when you're high? Who's in control? Somebody got to be in control because demons need a home. Well, again, these are doors that we open. We can't say, oh, well, no. Like even as simple as that with alcohol. When you're not in control, something else is in control. Doesn't that scare you? Like I think about it now and that scares me because I've seen people drunk and I've seen them do some crazy stuff. And I'm like, that doesn't look like who they are. Well, it's because that's not them. Something else is in control. Even with anger. When I'm angry, I say things that I don't mean. So who's in control at that point? Am I being possessed? No, but I am being influenced. I am being influenced because you could be angry, but the Bible says do not sin in your anger. There's angry and then there's rage. Rage doesn't come from the Lord, right? So who's in control? Exactly. So it's a scary thing that something can take possession over your mouth, possession over your actions. You know what I'm saying? So we have to recognize there is a spiritual realm. And I don't know about y'all, but I forget that all the time. When I'm in a situation, I forget I'm not fighting against this person or the situation. I'm fighting against the devil himself. And we tend to forget that. It's very easy to forget that we're spiritual beings in a body, not the other way around, okay? Understand the weapons we have. What weapons do we have? Prayer, God's word, fasting, worship, submission to God, and resistance to the devil. We have the armor of God. Where's that in the Bible? Yes. And what is the armor of God? Does anybody know it off the top of your head? Belt of truth, faith. Yep. Key actions. Surrender to God. Yield our will and plans to God. Allows his power and wisdom to guide us. God is not going to make decisions or help us make decisions unless we surrender to him. He is a gentleman. If you don't want him involved, he's not going to be involved. That's just as simple as it is. When I went to get married, my mom was like, you better invite God to that wedding. And I was just like, she was like, no, I'm not joking. I'm talking about the whole planning, the day, your marriage. And you don't really think about that, but it is the truth. How often do we invite God into our lives on a daily basis? Really, like, do we really even think about it? I'm not talking for y'all, but I don't. Like, I don't even, I'm like, oh, planning a party, should I invite Christ? Like, nobody thinks like that. Maybe my mom, but I don't think do you guys think like that? Like, I'm gonna have a barbecue. Let me just make sure that I pray and invite God to join us. Right. God, at work, like, God help me, but on a day-to-day, and then I think that sometimes, like, we treat God as if he's a genie. Like, you only want me when you want me, but you don't want me, you know what I'm saying? Like, our nature is that way. Like, we're just that way. But what if we started saying, like, God, like, we tend to welcome God into his own house. Like, we welcome you here, then we leave here, we go out to eat. We don't welcome him with us. You know what I'm saying? It's just something.
He is.
Yes.
We don't belong to ourselves. Like, if you want to even change your phone plan, you go like, Lord, can I change this plan?
Well, I should have spoke to the Lord about my internet connection because I've had a quite the journey. But it's true. We it sounds trivial and it sounds simple and like it does, but it's not. It's not that you're gonna go around. Well, no, I'm gonna speak to the Lord about it, Bernadette. You invited me to Chili's. I don't know. I really prefer Fridays. I'm gonna speak to the Lord. No, not like that. But just on your. She just dropped the mic.
Yep. I know that they don't like certain places, so I don't go certain places because you're my plus one. Right?
I like that.
It's not even so much. We look at it from a legalistic point, like, no, we have no fun. Like, you killjoy. Part of it is safety, right? Because we don't know what we're walking into. You ever said, I don't feel like going to X, Y, Z. extreme and people use it as an excuse. The design of God is the friendship, it's the closeness. And when you submit to him, it becomes a matter of what I want really doesn't matter.
Right.
It really is about what you want. And she said one time, she asked the Lord if she can go, and the Lord said, yes, I can come. And she was dead serious. But I understood that because she did not move in her own accord. And that took a lot of discipline. That's not something we walk into today and say, okay, Lord, do I go to JCPenney or do I go to Macy's? Right? But the practice is to start inviting the Lord into those daily things.
Yes.
Lord, do I go to shop right now or do I wait? It's just the practice of learning to invite him into those little trivial things. He says, I perfect all things that concern me.
Right.
If me going to shop right at 4 o'clock, something's going to happen. He says, no, I want you to wait till 5. But we so busy moving. But it's something that we really got to be trained in and disciplined in.
And we don't know if you're going to bump into somebody that might need a word. You know what I'm saying? Like if we were to really walk according to his purpose and plan, maybe we could be a blessing to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like if we really think that far, but I think we live in a day and age where everything is go, that we don't really stop to be like, hey, should I do this? Yes. Yes.
If you're gonna let any little thing piss you off, it's gonna be a problem. So now I think about it like that. No, if this lady in a 55 mile an hour Palisades Parkway is driving 40, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, and sometimes I'll be at work. I'm on my way to work. I'm like, 55. Why are you driving 40?
We're driving. I pick it up an hour before. We talk about God saving us. We're going past because I was like, there's nowhere to go but to Chili's. It's still gonna be there. But I was like, come on. Like you just over here just moseying along. You was just moving, but to slow down in that moment, I was like, and this guy, then he was like,
Jazzy, you were gonna say something?
yeah, I accident at work. You know, I was so eager to go to hurry up and get back. And, I can't wait to hurry up and just get back and hurry up. Every time that I had a procedure done, I'm like, oh, another procedure. Like, oh God, now more time. And now I'm like 18 months out, and I'm just like, okay, God, and I feel like he needed me. He's like, you're not ready to go back. I need you at your home with me in my, in his presence, and just kind of getting to know him better before I even get back out there.
Well, hindsight is 2020. When we look back, it makes sense. Like when I look back at certain things in my life, and at the time I was just like, really? Like, this was not fair. That was not cool. Why did you allow this to happen? Why did that have to happen? That ruined that day. And I look back and I see the bigger picture, and I'm like, had that not happened, I wouldn't be here. Had that not happened, I would have, you know what I'm saying? So everything that happens, just like, all right, Lord, you're in control. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, nothing just happens. Sometimes we're just like, but why did that happen? That's bad situation, sad situation. Like, why did that have to happen? Nothing just happens. You know what I mean? Seek God's guidance, pray for discernment and wisdom to understand God's will and direction. Be alert and vigilant. The enemy is always working to deceive and tempt us. My mom says it all the time. The enemy is watching. He's always trying to get in through one crack or another. He doesn't make us do things, but he does take advantage of situations. Life happens, but he will take advantage. And if he sees an opportunity, he's gonna take full control. Repentance, acknowledging and turning away from sin opens the door for God's forgiveness and healing. Stand together in community. Support and encouragement from other believers are vital in this fight. Can't do it alone. We said it last week. I'm going to repeat it. We try so hard. We're not those type of people. Humans are interrelational people. The worst thing you could do to somebody is isolate them. That's the work of the devil. That is the work of the devil. Isolation, wanting to keep you away from everybody. You ever seen a narcissist, they get into a relationship, what's the first thing they do? They isolate the person from their family and from their friends so they can take full control. We see it time and time again. Enemy is the same way. He tries to isolate us, to take offense over everything. Again, sometimes things happen and we create a story in our head and we get offended. And I think, and this is what the Lord is teaching me, you really have to get a strong back, especially in this walk. I forget that strong back is not the word. What's the word, Shauna? Thick skin, that was the word, not strong back. I don't know where strong back came from. Not a big back either. Thick skin, because you know what? Humans are, we fail. We fail. And in this walk, The enemy will use anything. For example, let's say one day I come to church and I don't have thick skin and Mimi doesn't say hi to me. Let's just say. And I get upset. She didn't say hi to me. And I get all butthurt. I'm never going to church again. Mimi didn't say hi to me. And Mimi, that day, Mimi's in her world. Like, I didn't even see you there. Like, I honestly didn't even see you there. Yes, you did see me. You look right at me. No, I didn't see it because it could happen. It could really happen. No, well, that's why I used you as an example. That's why I used you as an example. Because it can happen. Sometimes we're so caught up in our brains. But sometimes, no, but the truth is sometimes we're so caught up in our, you ever, I don't know if this has happened to you. I know it happens to me. I know it has happened to me. But you ever been so in your brain that you could be looking at something and you're not even looking at that thing? You have no idea because everything in your head is so loud that people can be talking to you and all you hear is noise. Sometimes my daughter tells me, she's like, did you hear what I said that? I said, what? She goes, you even answered me. I said, I did? She was like, you told me it was in the bag. I said, I didn't tell you that. She was like, you definitely did. And Debbie was there. She was there. You definitely, because she's talking to me about whatever's in the bag. And I'm thinking about how this lady owes me $200 and she hasn't paid me yet.
I'm driving to work, but I'm thinking about something else. Like my mind is over here, but I'm actually driving to work, and then I get to my exit, I'm like, all right. It's like muscle memory. I didn't realize I was on the Palisades already, but it's like it's
scary. It's scary. You're here, but you're not here, but you were somewhere else. Another thing, and this is, I think, the last one. Yeah, this is the last one. Understand the enemy. Nice. That the enemy is not a physical person, but a spiritual force seeking to undermine our relationship with God. Let's be aware of his tactics, his deception, his temptation, and his discouragement. I can't get it together. And you know what? Sometimes that's where our brain is at. And when we're there, if you've been thinking like that, we really got to come back to center. And I'm talking to myself. I'm not teaching you a class that was a cool class to give. I'm literally talking about myself. We got to come back to center and refocus. Because if not, you're going to be on this autopilot with everything. Your relationships, your walk with Christ, your job, cooking, whatever you do, you're there, but you're not there. And that's not the life that God called us to live. But we got to come back to the center. Remember that song, Jesus at the Center of It All? We got to really refocus, reevaluate, like, what am I even doing?
You start to see yourself.
Yes.
It's not a fast process. The devil don't work like that. Because he knows that when you're on fire for Christ, you're going to be tough to attack. So he does one little thing.
The Lord understands.
The Lord will compromise at a time.
And it's great to have community. We need that. But at the end of the day, when your makeup is off, your bra is off, and it's just you and God, you want to be able to look him in the face and know you're doing the right thing. And that's something that I try to do. Even though since February I've had a few words with him, and I'm sure he understands. But I'm still holding on to him and running to him. Because for me, I know what it's like when I didn't.
Right.
And it wasn't good for me. It didn't serve me well. Doing drugs and popping pills and turning my back on God did not serve me well. So running towards God now, I lost 2 children, and I'm standing here and I still smile, and I still laugh, and I still talk to people, and I still cry too. So this right here, which you're seeing in Bernadette Perez, is everything Jesus Christ. That's what it is. So he's been showing up for me. Everywhere as I turn, I got Jasmine, I got Xavier, I got Cindy, I got Convene. I have somebody there so that I don't fall. And I need it. And I want it to continue. And I don't like asking for it over me. And that's what I say and do.
But that's a genuine, even in the way you're saying it, Bernadette, it's such a genuine conversation. It's such a genuine relationship where it's like, I'm here. I don't even know what to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm here. And it's showing up. It's like that in marriage too. You know, like, I don't even know what to say, but I'm here. You know?
Where you will protect my children. I kept feeling like I'm praying not only for my kids, but that's not true. Because harm came to my child. So, but then I know there's going to be a reason. But I keep going back to that. But that's really the inner result.
My sister passed away in 2015. She was only 42 years old. At that time, I wasn't a new believer. I would say I really didn't know God the way I know him now. And at that time, I didn't understand. I said, Lord, why? Why did you allow this, right? Hence, it's 2025. And I'm like, Lord, 2020 came, COVID hit. My But 10, 15 years from now, you're going to sit back and you're going to say, I understand why. Right now, we don't understand. It's too fresh. I didn't understand. It was too fresh. But now, like, I feel the presence of the Lord. That's the truth. And the Lord revealed that to me. She would not have.
You know, when I was going through my kidney situation, people were praying and praying, healing, 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 healing. Miracle, miracle. They would throw oil at me. And there was one gentleman that when I went to get the transplant, he was like, that's not from the Lord. That's not from the Lord. What the hell you mean that's not from the Lord? That's how God is going to heal me. He was like, no, because I believe God can heal you. Bro, that is how God is going to heal me. No, he's going to heal you. You're not going to have that disease anymore. God's ways are his ways. God's thoughts are his thoughts. Healing, maybe in my mind, if I really wanted to be stubborn, I could be like, God didn't heal me because my brother's the one that gave me the kidney. But that would be so ignorant and dumb of me to think that way. Because God works the way it pleases him. I believe God healed me. He healed me by giving me my brother's kidney. That in itself was a miracle. But that gentleman stood. No, I don't think you should get that transplant. I don't think that's healing because the Bible says that he will heal you by the blood of the Lamb. Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes things happen and we take these Bible verses and we're like, not too literal because I believe but God.
His intention was in the right place. It's just that he didn't know how to interpret God's will.
There it is.
You guys know, like we don't know how to interpret God's will. Like we say, oh, let it be your will, but what is his will?
Yeah, and
sometimes we're gonna find conflict with it. God is like, we gotta go through this fire though. You gotta go through this fire.
Yeah, like and I say this all the time in the class. I think I say it once every Friday. God's objective is salvation, not joy, happiness. Now. Do you know what I'm saying? So sometimes our hearts literally have to break. I never forget about this singer. I believe it was, I don't think it was Everly. It's one of these big singers. And she said, like I don't know which one it was, but she kept saying she had an issue with idolatry. And in her marriage, she idolized her husband so much that the Lord allowed her husband to die. And afterwards, she understood that it was because her relationship with her husband was getting in the way of her relationship with God. She was idolizing her husband. And so she says, God took everything away from me so that I can understand that he is the only one that deserves that position. Nobody else. That's a hard pill to swallow. I was like, Lord, don't ever teach me that lesson. I want you more than, I don't, right? Learn how to listen. But sometimes we put people on these pedestals and it sounds cruel. But at the end of the day, God is God and he's a jealous God and he demands our attention and nobody is to take that place. Sometimes we do it with our job. We idolize our jobs and, I can't do anything without this job and I love, and God's like, really? Well, now you don't have the job. What are you going to do? Because we depend on the job or the person to give us joy, to fulfill us. You okay, Mimi? Huh? And you still just like, what the heck? I thought the really pretty house, I thought for sure now when I get the house, I'm going to be good. Julius is like, nope. I thought if I had a good-looking husband, Julius is like, nope. I thought if I had 2 beautiful kids, you love your kids. But at the end of the day, they're not going to give you the peace. And I think that's what it all boils down to with this class. And I felt the presence of the Lord when I was studying that part, where the enemy is a copycat. He will give you the desires of your heart, but they won't last. They won't last. The only thing that can give us everlasting peace comes from the Lord. No. Yep. It has a lot of roots.
Get those roots now. You gotta break. It's gonna break you inside, but it's because it has to.
I love that.
Deep.
Yep.
Can we speak on fear?
What part? As far as I can't get it together? Fear of what?
You walk in reverence.
I think, that's
I don't want to hurt your feelings.
I know we keep saying,
Yeah, but I'm saying like sometimes we get so caught up in, for example, because we live in this age where it's like, I'm going to do me because it's about me. And whatever I do doesn't affect anybody else, but that's not true. Yeah, that YOLO mentality where it's about me, for me, I'm the only one that does for me. You know what I'm saying? Like that very independent, I don't need nobody. My actions don't affect others, but that's not true. That's not true because what you do does affect the people that love you. You know what I'm saying? And yes, maybe you got to that place because you've been burned so many times. I get that. But I think we have to get, when you think of the greater scheme of things, that's why I said it's not about you. When we stop being so selfish and remember that this fight is not only for you, Jalissa, for Lucindy, it's for future generations to come. If you don't obey what God is calling you to do, How many people are not being ministered to? And not that God can't use other people, he can. But there's an assignment that he has specifically for you, and you're being disobedient. And so because you're being disobedient, other people are affected.
If this world is scary now, imagine when she gets older, how it's gonna be. And I'm like, Lord, this is why because who would intercede for my family if it wasn't for me, right? Who's gonna intercede for Ari and Ari's children when this world that's already chaos is gonna get worse when she becomes our age? You know, it's scary. It's scary.
My mother's mom came to know Christ and would intercede for all her children. And she would pray, as for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. It takes one person, you understand, to do that. That's what I mean by not you. You know, like when you really love your family, you think to yourself, man, I'm not only doing this for me. You know what I'm saying? When it's a hard day for you, for example, those of us that pay bills, paying bills sucks. It does. Everybody can agree. Everybody can agree. When we're at work and you're sweating, that sucks. But then when you remember, I'm not only doing this for me, I'm doing this for my family. When you see your kid chilling on the couch watching that TV and you know how much that bill is, you're just like, you know what? Not doing this for me. I'm doing this for them. You know what I'm saying? That gives us it gives you more motivation to remember, like when we're walking on this walk, I'm doing this so that my daughter and future generations can understand who Christ was. Had it not been for my mom, would I even know Christ? Would I even be a believer? Would my brother be able, like, would we? Maybe somehow, but maybe our lives would have been completely different. You know, like even Jules as a mother, those children will be raised differently because you chose to follow Christ when they're young. So they're not going to know, their lives are completely altered now. What they would have maybe experienced without you knowing Christ, what the enemy had planned for them to experience will not happen. And I think back to what you were telling me about the bracelet, because I don't even remember me telling you that. I would never tell you to take it off of a baby. Like I tell people to take off like the little black bands on the hand. I told her to take it off. I told her to take it out of the, I had some balls. I said, take it off of your daughter. I don't like it in the picture. And she told me this the other day. I said, what? She was like, yeah, you told me to take it off of her, that you didn't like it in the picture. Like, what the heck? Like, who am I to tell you what to put on your child for your pictures? No, but I mean, maybe because it was red in the picture. I don't know. It didn't match. So there you go. It didn't match. Julius is like, no, that's not why you said it. Okay. But why is she saying that? Okay. But, Ariel, you have something to say? I see you. Oh.
She was raised from 8, but still goes to the Lord. You know, like, whatever was taught to her has not departed from her.
Right.
She knows, yes, the seed is still planted, and although she doesn't come to church, she knows that when she does something wrong, she becomes praying, and I'm like.
And one day, when it's her time to surrender completely, because I'm not saying she don't have a relationship with the Lord now, but when she surrenders to the Lord completely, that fruit will come up. So that is all for today, folks, because we have Friday Night Live After Hours where I will not be speaking, but you guys will. So I got like 7 people sharing the names of God, which is really dope. All right, so to conclude, do we have FNL next week? Men's Fellowship Service? Okay. And then what's the next Friday Night Live we have? August 1st. Okay, so we're on for August 1st. Okay. All right, God bless you all. I'm going to have our brother Xavier, because I just want you to get, because Xavier's going to be